Do you think, for example, China will make a move to take control of Taiwan?
The official policy of China is that Taiwan should be integrated. One does not need to read between the lines. One can simply read the lines.
Do you think?
So I think there's some inevitability to this situation.
You seem to think it's likely to happen.
I'm simply saying that is their policy, and I think you should take their words seriously.
到了你们这个行业还有饭吃吗？现在大多数的互联网公司，都是靠广告火着的。
所以还是广告一统天下。
Tesla is not. We've not bought any advertising, and we've not paid for any endorsements. I don't actually like. I don't really like the idea of marketing, and I think sometimes a lot of marketing is like people try to trick people into buying products, which is not good.
但是他现在有多少客户？我有多少客户？你知道吗？
党总非常大声地宣布他的客户的数量。
我们到3月31号止的这个财政年度，销售了1.15亿台的设备。
如果是一人一台的话，那就不得了。
每秒钟5台设备。
伊冷回去让那些明星多宣传一点，明年我们也可以这么大声地说我们的销售数量。
我们如果都不做广告了，你们这个行业还有饭吃吗？现在大多数的互联网公司，都是靠广告火着的。
所以还是广告一统天下。
Tesla is not. We've not.
Human beings. Humans can never create another animal that is smarter than humans. Especially when you have so many smart people, it's impossible to make another smart people.
I very much disagree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. The first thing we should assume is that we are very dumb, and we can definitely make things smarter than ourselves. I mean, the most important mistake I see smart people making is assuming that they're smart. Well, computers actually are already much smarter than people on so many dimensions. We just keep moving the goalposts. So we used to think, like, for example, being good at chess was an example of a smart human. And then Kasparov was crushed by Deep Blue in '97. That was a long time ago. 22 years. I mean, right now your cell phone could crush the world champion at chess, literally. Go used to be thought of as something that humans were better at than computers. Then Lee Sedol was beaten 4-1 by AlphaZero. Then a new version of AlphaZero, sorry, I should say AlphaGo. AlphaGo beat Lee Sedol 4-1. Then there's AlphaZero. AlphaZero crushed AlphaGo 100-0. Now it's just pointless because it just keeps playing itself. Humans are trying to play a computer Go is like trying to fight Zeus. It's not going to work. Hopeless. We are hopelessly inadequate. In terms of rendering, basically, there's just a smaller and smaller corner of intellectual pursuits that humans are better than computers, and that every year it gets smaller and smaller, and soon we will be far, far surpassed in every single way, guaranteed. I mean, there's been many times where I expected to lose everything. I mean, who starts a car company and a rocket company expecting them to succeed? Certainly not me. I thought they both had less than a 10% chance of success. And frankly, I wasn't wrong in that in 2008, we had the third failure of SpaceX, and if the fourth launch had failed, SpaceX would be dead in 2008. We had no money for a fifth launch. For Tesla's been on the verge of bankruptcy many times. We closed the financing round in 2008, because remember, at the end of 2008, General Motors and Chrysler were going bankrupt, and Ford was almost bankrupt. So imagine trying to raise money for an electric car startup while General Motors is going bankrupt. And people were angry that I even asked, but we were able to just barely raise enough money to squeak by and close the financing round for Tesla on the last hour of the last day that it was possible in Christmas Eve 2008. And if we had not closed that financing round then, it would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas. Yeah, well, I mean, what are we but our memories? And what is death but the loss of memory? Loss of information. If you could say, like, well, if you could be, you run a thought experiment, well, if you were disintegrated painlessly and then reintegrated a moment later, like teleportation, I guess, provided there's no information loss. The fact that your one body was disintegrated is irrelevant.
And memories is just such a huge part of that.
Death is fundamentally the loss of information, the loss of memory.
So if we can store them as accurately as possible, we basically achieve a kind of immortality.
Yeah. Everybody's going to die. It's just a question of when. So
how do we create something to keep us alive
I'm not
longer?
worried about dying.
Can we create something to keep us alive longer or no? You looked into that?
Longevity and stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know if we should have longevity, because the people who will get the longevity capability first are probably people you wouldn't want to live that long.
Rich people, right?
How long would you want, I don't know, there's like, I think a lot of people in power who you wouldn't want them to have some super longevity situation.
You think that's going to be possible though with like modern medicine and just everything we're doing?
Some amount of longevity I think it's certainly possible. I think I could probably solve longevity to some degree, but I don't want to. Yeah, the problem is like, when people get old, they don't change their minds. They just die. Mm-hmm. So if you want to have progress in society, you got to make sure that, people need to die because they get old, they don't change their mind.
Absolutely.
So if old people just live for a super long time, I think society would get
lazy, right?
Very stale, very ossified. Everybody's going to die. It's just a question of when.
Like to achieve, which you think is going to be impossible?
Impossible is a strong word, but
you don't like that word.
Well, it's a strong word. I sort of approach things from a physics standpoint, and the word impossible is, more or less banned in physics.
Well, actually, I didn't do any market research. So maybe that's why I did it. If I had done market research, I would have probably not done it. No, I do think there's a market for what we're building. I didn't do any market research. I certainly, read about what rockets exist in the world, what are they launching, and that kind of thing. I knew that at a minimum we should be able to go and compete in the existing market and have some kind of a business, even if it wasn't, really breakthrough or anything like that. I don't think there's any kind of market research you could do that would say, okay, if you really believe it, if you can reduce cost by this amount, then there'll be this extra number of launches that occur as a result of that reduced price. I think you just have to do it and hope it turns out to be true. And then make sure that there's a backup plan that you at least have built some value, even if you don't achieve the full potential that you've still got some valuable enterprise that's capable of at least serving the existing market. And that's really the strategy that SpaceX has had.
When I was a kid, I was wondering kind of what's the meaning of life? Like, why are we here? What's it all about? And I came to the conclusion that what really matters is trying to understand the right questions to ask. And the more that we can increase the scope and scale of human consciousness, the better we are able to ask these questions. So I think that there's certain things that are necessary to ensure that the future is good. Some of those things are, in the long term, having long-term sustainable transport and sustainable energy generation, to be a spacefaring civilization, and for humanity to be out there among the stars and be a multi-planetary species. I think being a multi-planet species and being out there among the stars is important for the long-term survival of humanity, and that's one reason, kind of like life insurance for life collectively, life as we know it. But then the part that I find personally most motivating is that it creates a sense of adventure, and it makes people excited about the future. If you consider two futures, one where we are forever confined to Earth until eventually something terrible happens, or another future where we are out there on many planets, maybe even going beyond the solar system, I think that second version is incredibly exciting and inspiring, and there need to be reasons to get up in the morning. Life can't just be about solving problems. Otherwise, what's the point? There's got to be things that people find inspiring and make life worth living.
Elon, what do you think Tesla will look like in 5 years? This company has changed so much just in the past few years.
Well, what I hope we're doing in 5 years is doing our mass market vehicle. And then that's really been the goal all along. From the beginning, my dream for Tesla has been to make mass market electric vehicles. And that's, we're about to do we've done step one of that with the Roadster, which is, the high price, low volume. Now we're moving to Model S, mid price, mid volume. And then hopefully in 5 years, maybe 6 years, we're also producing the mass market electric vehicle. That's the ultimate dream for me, for Tesla.
Looking at Tesla, this is a startup company. Like many startup companies, you lose money. The company has lost about $260 million since its inception. You're going public. You want the public to invest in Tesla. What do you say to reassure investors that might have questions about the potential profitability here?
Well, we often get that question. The thing that's important to bear in mind is that if Tesla we just decided to be a sports car company and sell powertrains to other companies like to Daimler and to Toyota, we would be profitable. That's important to. However, we're choosing not to do that. We're choosing instead to reinvest those profits and raise additional money to increase the production volume and reduce the Model S, which is 30 times more production volume, maybe 40 times more production volume.
I've got about apparently 5 or 6 minutes to say the most useful things I can think of. I'm going to do my best. I think these are pretty important ones. The first is you need to work, depending upon how well you want to do, particularly if you're starting a company, you need to work super hard. So what does super hard mean? My brother and I were starting our first company. Instead of getting an apartment, we just rented a small office and we slept on the couch. We showered at the YMCA, and we're so hot up we had just one computer. So the website was up during the day, and I was coding at night. 7 days a week, all the time. Work hard like every waking hour. That's the thing I would say particularly if you're starting a company. I mean, if you do simple math, say like, okay, if somebody else is working 50 hours and you're working 100, you'll get twice as much done in the course of a year as the other company. The thing I'd say is, if you're creating a company or if you're joining a company, the important thing is to attract great people. So either join a group that's amazing, that you really respect, or if you're building a company, you've got to gather great people. I mean, all a company is a group of people that have gathered together to create a product or service. And so depending upon how talented and hardworking that group is, and the degree to which they are focused cohesively in a good direction, that will determine the success of the company. So do everything you can to gather great people if you're creating a company. Then I'd say focus on signal over noise. A lot of companies get confused. They spend money on things that don't actually make the product better. For example, at Tesla, we've never spent any money on advertising. We put all of the money into R&D and manufacturing and design to try to make the car as good as possible. I think that's the way to go. So for any given company, just keep thinking about, are these efforts that people are expending, are they resulting in a better product or service? And if they're not, stop those efforts. The final thing is, don't just follow the trend. You heard me say that it's good to think in terms of the physics approach, or first principles, which is, rather than reasoning by analogy, you boil things down to the most fundamental truths you can imagine, and you reason up from there. And this is a good way to figure out if something really makes sense, or if it's just what everybody else is doing. But if you're trying to do something new, it's the best way to think. And that framework was developed by physicists to figure out counterintuitive things like quantum mechanics. So it's really a powerful method. So that's, and then I think that the final thing I would encourage you to do is, now is the time to take risk. As you get older, your obligations increase. So and once you have a family, you start taking risk not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out. So now is the time to do that before you have those obligations. So I would encourage you to take risks now. Do something bold. You won't regret it. Thank you.
Earth is like 4.5 billion years old. In another 500 million years or so, the sun will expand and probably evaporate the oceans and make life impossible on Earth. Which means that if it had taken consciousness 10% longer to evolve, it would never have evolved at all. Just 10% longer. And I wonder how many dead one-planet civilizations there are out there in the cosmos. that never made it to the other planet and then ultimately extinguished themselves or were destroyed by external factors. Probably a few. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you've ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. Every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam.
What is the likelihood that you personally will go to Mars?
70%. Your probability of dying on Mars is much higher than Earth. It's going to be hard. There's a good chance of death. Going in a little can through deep space. You might land successfully. Once you land successfully, there will be you'll be working non-stop to build the base. So not much time for leisure. Very harsh environment, so there's a good chance you die there. We think you can come back, but we're not sure. If you want to do things like me, you have to learn how to be good at technology. That's so study engineering, physics, that kind of thing. Understand how the world works, and try to be as accurate as possible about that. And then, like I said, also try to be creative, which means just try to think of things that haven't been done before, but that would probably make the world better. And it requires a lot of mental effort to do that. So I don't just come up with stuff willy-nilly. Occasionally, but it's rare. But the goal really have to think until your brain hurts. That's basically. If you haven't thought until your brain hurts, then you haven't tried hard enough. Anyway, I don't want to sound like things are too dark, because I think you kind of have to be optimistic about the future. There's no point in being pessimistic. It's just too negative.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. I think I'd rather be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right.
You said you can never be happy unless you're in love.
There's two things. I think to be most happy, if you're happy in love and you love your work, then you'll be, I think, fully happy. If you lack either of those two, if you have one of those two things, be half happy. China's got a huge population collapse problem.
Really?
Yeah.
China, you actually get penalized if you have more than one kid.
No,
are you being serious?
No,
they cut that off.
No, see, this is so part of it is just we're operating on things that were true in the past but are no longer true. So China did have a one-child policy, but about 10 years ago they changed it to a two-child policy, and then a few years ago they changed it to a three-child policy, and birth rate kept plummeting the whole time. The lowest birth rate ever last year.
Really?
Yeah, China's birth rate right now is 40% below replacement.
Wow, traditional women. I don't want to,
one can speculate as to the reasons, but I can tell
there's
you
no hose.
What we face is population collapse.
Huh.
Collapse. People have no idea how fast the population is going to collapse. Know a lot of women that have not had kids and not planning to, type of thing. And I'm man. So I'm worried about I think that's the biggest risk to civilization right now. It's just we got to get rid of this nonsense that we're having an overpopulation issue. We have an underpopulation. One of the issues with social media, it's been pointed out by many people, is that people look like they have a much better life than they really do.
Right.
So
by design.
Yeah, people are posting pictures of when they're really happy. They're modifying those pictures to be better looking. So people basically seem they're way better looking than they basically really are.
Right.
And they're way happier seeming than they really are. So when in fact, those people you think are super happy, actually not that happy. Some of them are really depressed. They're very sad. Some of the happiest seeming people, actually some of the saddest people in reality. A lot of people are sad about the future and that they're pessimistic. And I think this is not great. I mean, we really want to wake up in the morning and look forward to the future. We want to be excited about what's going to happen. And life cannot simply be about sort of solving one miserable problem after another. You can learn anything on the internet for free. Yeah, I mean, all the MIT lectures are on YouTube. You can become an expert in anything for free if you've got an internet connection. Yes. The equality of access to information is so radically better today than it was in the past. We should be actually quite excited about the fact that there is this massive leveling of opportunity of access to information.
Hi.
My question is, what makes you so interested in politics now? Why is this so important to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, don't bring the mic that close. Whoa. Yeah, the question is why politics now and versus in the past I really have not been meaningfully involved in politics. So the reason is that I think we're at a crossroads. This time I think we're at a crossroads, a fork in the road of destiny. What I see happening under the sort of Biden and Kamala administration is a level of sort of government overreach and manipulation that is extremely troubling. And I also see really a deliberate attempt to import as many people as possible into swing states like Pennsylvania in order to ensure that there is a permanent one state, that America becomes a permanent one-party state. I mean, the numbers are truly staggering, and the sort of fake legacy media doesn't report on them. The only reason anyone knows about it is if you're on the X platform. But like it's crazy. But I mean, you're seeing like basically increases. This is from the government website, by the way, which is run by Democrats. So like you're seeing like in some cases like 700% increases in the past 3.5 years in illegals in swing states. What a coincidence. And when you're talking about elections that are won or lost by 10 or 20,000 votes, and then you bring in 200,000 people, and then you put them on the fast track to citizenship. This is without considering any cheating. This is legalized. That if that happens over the next 4 years, there will be no swing states. They're importing voters. That is I think that's obvious to anyone who looks, and we will have a situation like we have in California, where it's a one-party state. California is a supermajority Dem state, and so it's one-party rule. And if you have one-party rule, that's not a democracy. So I think either action is taken now. If there was another 4 years and it's really like pointless to even sort of talk about Kamala. Kamala is just a puppet of a larger machine. If the machine, I'll call it the machine, is able to run for another 4 years, there will not be any meaningful elections in the future, just like there aren't in California, and all of America will be Californicated, not in a good way. Yeah, Californicated. Ouch. So we don't want that. That would be a bad situation. In fact, it will actually be worse than California. The reason it'll be worse than California is the one thing that holds California back from being even worse than it is that people can move out of California and still be in America. Now, what happens when there's no place to move? It'll be way worse than California. That's why I think, yeah, exactly. Well, and speaking of Mars, like what we're seeing, with SpaceX, Tesla, and whatnot, is that the sort of regulatory oppression year after year is worse and worse. And there's more regulatory agencies created every year, more rules and regulations every year, until eventually everything is illegal. We had our rocket sitting on the pad for 2 months, ready to fly. How is it possible that SpaceX could build a gigantic rocket faster than the government could move paper from one desk to another? So this is... So if that trend continues, which it will do unless there's a conscious effort to have deregulation and have sensible regulation, then Mars will be impossible. We will be forever confined to Earth. So, I definitely think that's a major showstopper. Is being so heavily regulated that we are confined to Earth forever. And that would be a sad eulogy. If future aliens see us, you come back and they almost made it. Too bad they regulated themselves. You know, and they had the rocket and everything. You know. So I guess the short answer is I think this is incredibly important. That ironically, there's a lot of people on the Dem side that call Trump a threat to democracy. I think, in fact, they are the threat to democracy. Thank you.
Hey, Elon, it is a pleasure. Me and my best friend started a company when we were 21 years old. We're going to be the next biggest beef jerky company in the U.S., I promise that. But what advice do you have for young entrepreneurs like us to conquer a challenge that seems almost impossible from the beginning?
Well, I mean, generally, I think, just try to make a good product or service, and I mean, it's not. It's really that, it's like you have to say, like, what is a useful thing that you could do? Like, maximize your usefulness. What is if there's like what is that product or service that you want to make?
Beef jerky, the best beef jerky.
Okay, great. So you want to make the best beef jerky? Just go ahead and do it. And then you have to sort of just explain to people why it's. Well, first of all, you need to make sure it is in fact the best beef jerky. And then you need to then explain to people why it is. And so if you have both the reality and the perception of something being the best beef jerky or whatever the product may be, then
感谢加入会员的虾米们，还没加入的，马上点击加入频道会员，观看会员专属影片。